Steps toward inner peace. In my early life, I made two very important discoveries. In the first place, I discovered that making money was easy. And in the second place, I discovered that making money and spending it foolishly was completely meaningless. I knew that this was not what I was here for. But at that time, this was many years ago, I didn't know exactly what I was here for. It was out of a very deep seeking for a meaningful way of life, and after having walked all one night through the woods, that I came to what now I know to be a very important psychological bump. I felt a complete willingness, without any reservations, to give my life, to dedicate my life to service. I tell you, it's a point of no return. After that, you can never go back to completely self-centered living. And so I went into the second phase of my life. I began to live to give what I could instead of to get what I could. And I entered a new wonderful world. My life began to become meaningful. I attained the great blessings of good health. I haven't had a cold or or a headache since. Sorry. Most illness is psychological induced. From that time on, I have known that my life work would be work for peace, that it would cover the whole peace picture, peace among nations, peace among groups, peace among individuals, and the very, very important inner peace. However, there is a great deal of difference between being willing to give your life and actually giving your life, and for me, 15 years of preparation and of inner seeking lay between. During this time, I became acquainted with what the psychologists refer to as ego and conscience. I began to realize that it's as though we have two selves, or two natures, or two wills, with two different viewpoints. Because the viewpoints were so different, I felt a struggle in my life at this period between the two selves with the two viewpoints. So there were hills and valleys, lots of hills and valleys. Then, in the midst of the struggle, there came a wonderful mountaintop experience, and for the first time I knew what inner peace was like. I felt a oneness with all my fellow human beings, oneness with all of creation. I have never felt really separate since. I could return again and again to this wonderful mountain top, and then I could stay there for longer and longer periods of time and just slip out occasionally. Then came a wonderful morning when I woke up and knew that I would never have to descend again into the valley. I knew that for me the struggle was over, and that finally I had succeeded in giving my life or finding inner peace. Again, this is a point of no return. You can never go back into the struggle. The struggle is over now because you will to do the right thing and you don't need to be pushed into it. However, progress is not over. Great progress has taken place in this third phase of my life, but it's as though the central figure of the jigsaw puzzle of your life is complete and clear and unchanging, and around the edges other pieces keep fitting in. There is always a growing edge, but the progress is harmonious. There is a feeling of always being surrounded by all the good things, like love and peace and joy. It seems like a protective surrounding, and there is an unshakableness within which takes you through any situation you may need to face. The world may look at you and believe that you are facing great problems, but always there are the inner resources to easily overcome these problems. Nothing seems difficult. There is a calmness and a serenity and unhurriedness, no more striving or straining about anything. Life is full and life is good, but life is never more overcrowded. That's a very important thing I've learned. If your life is in harmony with your part in the life pattern, and you are obedient to the laws which govern this universe, then your life is full and good, but not overcrowded. If it is overcrowded, you are doing more than is right for you to do, more that is your job to do in the total scheme of things. Now there is a living to give instead of to get. As you concentrate on the giving, you discover that just as you cannot receive without giving, so neither can you give without receiving. Even the most wonderful things like health and happiness and inner peace. There is a feeling of endless energy. It just never runs out. It seems to be as endless as the air. You just seem to be plugged into the source of universal energy. You are now in control of your life. You see, the ego is never in control. The ego is controlled by wishes of comfort and convenience on the part of this body, by demands of the mind, by outbursts of the emotions. But the higher nature controls the body and the mind and the emotions. I can say to my body, lie down there on that cement floor and go to sleep. And it obeys. I can say to my mind, shut out everything else and concentrate on this job before you. And it's obedient. I can say to my emotions, be still, even in the face of this terrible situation. And they are still. It's a different way of living. The philosopher Thoreau wrote, if a man does not keep peace with his companions, perhaps he hears a different drummer. And now you are following a different drummer. The higher nature is that of a lower. It was only at this time, in 1953, that I felt guided or called or motivated to begin my pilgrimage for peace in the world, a journey undertaken traditionally. The tradition of pilgrimage is a journey undertaken on foot and on faith, prayerfully, and as an opportunity to contact people. I wear a leather tunic in order to contact people. It says, Peace Pilgrim, on the front. I feel that's my name now. It emphasizes my mission instead of me. And on the back it says 25,000 miles on foot for peace. The purpose of the tunic is merely to make contacts for me. Constantly as I walk along the highways and through the cities, people approach me and I have the chance to talk with them about peace. I have walked 25,000 miles as a penniless pilgrim. I own only what I wear and what I carry in my small pockets. I belong to no organization. I have said that I will walk until given shelter and fast until given food, remaining a wanderer until mankind has learned the way of peace. And I can truthfully tell you that without ever asking for anything, I have been supplied with everything needed for my journey, which shows you how good people really are. With me I carry always my peace message. This is the way of peace. Overcome evil with good, falsehood with truth, and hatred with love. There is nothing new about this message, except the practice of it. And the practice of it is required not only in the international situation, but also in the personal situation. I believe that the situation in the world is a reflection of our own immaturity. If we were mature, harmonious people, war would be no problem whatever. It would be impossible. All of us can work for peace. We can work right where we are, right within ourselves, because the more peace we have within our own lives, the more we can reflect into the other situation. In fact, I believe that the wish to survive will push us into some kind of uneasy world peace, which will then need to be supported by a great inner awakening if it is to endure. I believe we entered a new age when we discovered nuclear energy, and that this new age calls for a new renaissance to lift us to a higher level of understanding so that we will be able to cope with the problems of this new age. So primarily my subject is peace within ourselves as a step toward peace in our world. Now, when I talk about the steps toward inner peace, I talk about them in a framework, but there's something arbitrary about the number of steps. They can be expanded, they can be contracted. This is just a way of talking about the subject, but this is important. The steps toward inner peace are not taken in any certain order. The first step for one may be the last step for another. So, just take whatever step seems easiest for you, and as you take a few steps, it will become easier for you to take a few more. In this area, we really can share. None of you may feel guided to walk a pilgrimage, and I'm not trying to inspire you to walk a pilgrimage, but in the field of finding harmony in our own lives we can share. And I suspect that when you hear me give some of the steps toward inner peace, you will recognize them as steps that you also have taken. In the first place, I would like to mention some preparations that were required of me. The first preparation is a right attitude toward life. This means stop being an escapist. Stop being a surface liver who stays right in the froth of the surface. There are millions of these people, and they never find anything really worthwhile. Be willing to face life squarely and get down beneath the surface of life where the verities and realities are to be found. That's what we are doing here now. There's the whole matter of having a meaningful attitude for the problems that life may set before you. If only you could see the whole picture, if only you knew the whole story, you will realize that no problems ever comes to you that does not have a purpose in your life that cannot contribute to your inner growth. When you perceive this, you will recognize problems are as opportunities in disguise. If you did not face the problems, you would just drift through life and you would not gain inner growth. It is through solving problems in accordance with the highest life that we have that inner growth is attained. Now, collective problem must be solved by us collectively, and no one finds inner peace who avoids doing his or her share in the solving of collective problems, like world disarmament and world peace. So let us always think about these problems together, talk about them together, and collectively work toward their solutions. The second preparation has to do with bringing our lives into harmony with the laws that govern this universe. Created are not only the words and the beings, but also the laws which governs them. Applying both in the physical realm and in the psychological realm, these laws govern human conduct. And so far as we were able to understand and bring our lives into harmony with these laws, our lives will be in harmony. And so far as we disobey these laws, we create difficulties for ourselves too by our disobedience. We are our own worst enemies. If we are out of harmony through ignorance, we suffer somewhat. But if we know better and are still out of harmony, then we suffer a great deal. I recognize that these laws are well known and well believed, and therefore they just need to be well lived. So I got busy on a very interesting project. This was to live all the good things I believed in. I did not confuse myself by trying to take them all at once, but rather, if I was doing something that I knew I should not be doing, I stopped doing it, and I always made a quick relinquishment. You see, that's the easy way. Tapering off is long and hard, and it was not doing something that I knew should be doing. I got busy on that. It took the living quite a while to catch up with the believing. But of course it can, and now, if I believe something, I live it. Otherwise, I would be perfectly meaningless. As I lived according to the highest light that I had, I discovered that other light was given and that I opened myself to receiving more light as I lived the light I had. These laws are the same for all of us. And these are the things that we can study and talk about together. But there is also a third preparation that has to do with something which is unique for every human life, because every one of us has a special place in the life pattern. If you do not know clearly where you fit, I suggest you try seeking it in nature. Just receptive and silent and wonderful insights would come to me. You begin to do your part in the life pattern by doing all the good things you feel motivated toward, even though they are just little good things at first. You give this priority in your life over all the superficial things that customarily clutter human lives. There are those who know and do not do. This is very sad. I remember one day as I walked along the highway, a very nice car stopped as the man said to me, "How wonderful that you are following your calling." I replied, "I certainly think that everyone should be doing what feels right to do." He then began telling me what he felt motivated toward, and it was the good things that needed doing. I got quite enthusiastic about it and took for granted that he was doing it. I said, "That's wonderful. How are you getting on with it?" And he answered, "Oh, I'm not doing it. That kind of work doesn't pay anything." And I shall never forget how desperately unhappy that man was. But, you see, in this materialistic age, we have such a false criterion by which to measure success. We measure it in terms of dollars, in terms of material things, but happiness and inner peace do not lie in that direction. If you know but do not do, you are a very unhappy person indeed. There is also false preparation, and it is the simplification of life to bring inner and outer well-being, psychological and material well-being into, into me. This was made very easy for me. Just after I dedicated my life to service, I felt that I could no longer accept more than I needed while others in the world have less than they need. This moved me bring my life down to need level. I thought it would be difficult. I thought it would entail a great many hardships. But I was quite wrong. Now that I own only what I wear and what I carry in my pockets, I don't feel deprived of anything. For me, what I want and what I need are exactly the same, and you couldn't give me anything I don't need. I discovered this great truth. Unnecessary possessions are just unnecessary burdens. Now, I don't mean that all your needs are the same. Yours may be much greater than mine. For instance, if you have a family, you will need the stability of a family center for your children. But I do mean that anything beyond need, and need sometimes includes things beyond the physical needs too, anything beyond needs tends to become burdensome. There is a great freedom in simplicity of living, and after I began to feel this, I found a harmony in my life between inner and outer well-being.